Hey guys, welcome back to Dogforge. My name's Paul, and today we're continuing our Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse race overview series where I talk until I pass out from lack of oxygen. Today we're covering the Lizardfolk, where you can reasonably ask the question, how long until after your party member dies can you consider them your next meal? So, let's jump straight into that swamp. Now, I want to say that this is new art for the Lizardfolk, and it is kind of cool how you can see the light shining through the membranes of their frills. However, the Lizardfolk has gone through very minor mechanical changes, relatively speaking, but big identity changes, I feel. The lore of the Lizardfolk themselves, which we're not going to cover a great deal in this video, that's not really the intent of these videos. However, they are heavily walking away from the alien mindset, the dissociation of emotion with thought process that the Lizardfolk have stereotypically had up until now, and was the way that they were certainly described in Volo's Guide to Monsters. And they are also changing some of the implied cultural aspects of the Lizardfolk in their mechanics, which is a mixed bag in my opinion. But without further ado, let's get into the crunch of the matter as we start off with our ability score increases. Now, this has changed to a boilerplate as on all of the other races. It was originally a +2 to Constitution and a +1 to Wisdom, making Lizardfolk best suited to being things like druids and clerics. However, they are now going to get a +2 and +1 of their choice, or 3 +1s of their choice, making them equally great for everybody. I say equally great, that's just not true. It really depends on if you want to have a good strength modifier, but we'll get into that. Languages are now going to be common and one other language that you and your DMs agree is appropriate for your character and your campaign, as opposed to previously, which was common and draconic. Jumping on down into the actual specific Lizardfolk traits. Now, Lizardfolk are one of the races that slipped through the gaps, in my opinion. Originally, and this is referring to the bite ability, in case my entire lack of introduction was not already explanation enough. Now, the Lizardfolk already had a 1d6 bite for their natural weapon unarmed strike. So, as everyone else is getting bumped up from a d4 into d6, which is a very minor boost that primarily only really affects monks, or if you wanted to play an unarmed barbarian or something. The Lizardfolk already had a slightly better version for their bite. So as everyone else has been raised up to a d6 where they already were, they have, in my opinion, this is the first showing of them losing design space. They had previously had a little bit of a better bite, and now it's a standard damage die for a natural weapon. But they don't have anything to replace that. And that's going to be the same in another feature which we'll talk about next, because it doesn't exist here at all, and that's Cunning Artisan. Cunning Artisan, as part of a short rest, allowed you to harvest bone and hide from a slain beast, construct, dragon, monstrosity, or plant creature that was small or larger to create a shield, club, javelin, a number of darts, or blowgun needles. To do that, they needed a blade or appropriate artisan's tools, and this really showed you that they were a people that could, make do with what nature provided them, or their next hunt provided them. This has been entirely stripped out, and the reasoning for this is basically to divorce mechanics from culture and to reinforce that you shouldn't need a mechanic to allow you to do those things. You should just ask your DM. Personally, I liked that there was a mechanic for that, because it actually codified what you can make rather than leaving it up to a nebulous decision that will change table to table and would likely involve a DC with a survival check, if they even let you do it without survival proficiency. So I think that has really just gone by the wayside, and not only did I like that ability, I think that ability did eat some of their design space along with the better bite, and the Lizardfolk is worse off compared to other races in that they've just lost these things that they had before with nothing to really replace them, and the improvement to Hungry Jaws doesn't do it, in my opinion. But enough of that sidetrack, let's move on. Hold breath, you can hold your breath for 15 minutes, that's exactly the same. I'm going to jump Hungry Jaws for a second. Natural armor, AC is 13 plus dex because you have scales, that's exactly the same. Nature's Intuition was previously called Hunter's Law. It's essentially the same thing. You gain 2 skills of your choice from a list. The list is Animal Handling, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Stealth, or Survival. The list is actually the same, but they added Medicine. So they've kind of purposefully moved away from the hunter kind of identity of the Lizardfolk, and they've inserted a non-hunting, arguably, skill in there. And coming around to Hungry Jaws, the iconic ability of the Lizardfolk. As a bonus action, you can make a special attack with your bite. If it hits, it deals its normal damage, and you gain temp HP. Now, this has changed in 2 ways. Originally, that temp HP was equal to your Constitution modifier. That now equals your proficiency bonus. That is just better. It's going to start off at a +2 and just go up from there. And most people can't afford to really bump their Constitution beyond a +3. They have other priorities unless they had a really high stat rate to begin with, or a really generous DM. And secondly, it's gone from once per short rest to a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. So these are 2 just buffs that make this ability far more usable. So now you can use it turn after turn, and you might get hung up on the temp HP from this ability, but the real benefit of the Hungry Jaws ability is that it allows you to make a bonus action attack, and it allows you to make a bonus action attack that doesn't require your hands to be free. This allows you to do all kinds of things, like it keys off strength, because that's how the bite works, so you can add your Barbarian Rage bonus on top of it. You could add other rider effects onto it. If you're playing a monk, you might be able to change that out with your dex and then use other subclass features based on it if you wanted to. It is a slight improvement compared to martial arts because you do get that temp HP. The temp HP itself is kind of whatever. It's such a fleetingly small amount of temporary hit points that, yeah, it's going to help. It's going to help more so at levels like 1, 2, 3, and then become largely irrelevant after that. I kind of wish they would have just said temp HP equals double your proficiency bonus. That wouldn't have been unreasonable, especially in the era of temp HP that we currently live in 5e, and it would have made it more just useful. But the key point of that rambling was that the main benefit of Hungry Jaws is it's a bonus action attack, not the temp HP. Overall, this is a buff for the Lizardfolk. I have to say that the flexible stats and the improvement to Hungry Jaws and the addition of Medicine, if you really wanted the addition of Medicine is kind of lip service, really, on a list that includes Perception and Stealth, 2 amazing tier 1 skills. But it is somewhat of an improvement of choice. This is a straight up buff to the Lizardfolk overall, but I do have to reiterate that the Lizardfolk has lost design space by losing being special with their 1d6 attack, and by losing Cunning Artisan. I feel like they could have gone further with Hungry Jaws because of that, doubled the amount of temp HP, or given them some other feature, bump up how long you can hold your breath, something. I just feel like there's design space left on the table. But that's enough of my Lizardfolk ramblings. What do you think of the new Lizardfolk? Do you think that they're a buff, nerf, side grade? Do you wish they'd left Cunning Artisan in, or do you agree with the removal? Let us know in the comment section down below. Whilst you're down there, like that video if you found it helpful or informative, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. we'd like to welcome you to the Dogforge community, and there should be a link to our Discord down there too, if you want to just jump on over. We have very friendly users that probably won't scare you off. Until next time, I've been Paul, and I'll see you at the Forge.